Real estate wholesaling, very cost-effective way to start investing, especially if you've got some limited funds and you want fast returns without actually having to deal with costly renovations or even tenants. It's perfect for beginner investors. It gets you an opportunity to learn how wholesaling real estate can be a little tricky. Plenty of state regulations back there and some complex contract language that needs to be used. So you need to make sure that the demand is carefully considered before you get involved. But today, we're going to talk about how it works. How do you find wholesale properties and tips to succeed in your wholesale ventures? So let's get cracking. So for those of you that are just joining this week or that are new based on the conference that we just started, welcome to the show. This is all about real estate, not just on the agent side or on the brokerage end, but also for clients, advisory services towards what we do here at Keystone, and we're happy to be here for you. So what is real estate wholesaling? Wholesaling itself is a real estate investment strategy. This allows an individual, let's call them the wholesaler, to find a contract on a property, typically a significant discount, and then assigns to sell the contract to another buyer, typically an investor, for profit. Essentially, acting as the middleman. Wholesalers act as intermediaries, facilitating the transaction between the seller and the buyer. Never have to own, never have to renovate the property. They find and negotiate a property at a good discounted rate while selling it to a pool or a group of investors or a group of investor flippers that they have great networking capability with and understand how to do business with those folks. So as they go out and find groups, they can wholesale it at a profit. Sometimes confused with fixing and flipping, this is not the same. Wholesalers' intention is not to repair or sell the property themselves. Instead, they are marketing the property. They're very good at marketing and prospecting for buyers, traditionally investor side. The buyers are not always investors, but sometimes they can be homeowners and other wholesalers. But in most cases, the buyer is a buy and hold fix or flip investor, and this person is a wholesaler, real estate agent particularly, that knows how to find homes that are not on the normal market, and it's easy for them to be able to obtain contract on those and utilize the contracting language to support it. So who real estate wholesaling is best for? It's a great option for beginner investors. They want to learn how to invest in real estate, do not have capital or much capital. It's well suited for contractors and investors that have an eye for distressed properties and those with solid negotiating skills. Wholesaling takes time to learn. It's a craft. It can reap significant rewards, and if you do it correctly, lots of different ways to consider opportunities for simply going out and finding properties to move very quickly. A lot of gray areas that you do want to consider. Finding the property and buyers and bringing them all together does require time. So knowing how to do that type of research is going to be critical for your success. But if you're looking for pretty much an in-office job where you can consistently call on local properties that you see that are in a distressed state or in a vacant state, it's a great opportunity for you to be able to take advantage of. Having the right people in your network, such as real estate professionals, other realtors, contractors, lenders, appraisers, other investors, a large investment pool would be great. And these are people that like to buy investment properties. They like to fix and flip. They like themselves to be able to build a portfolio. And it can be a lot of fun for them to have someone that's doing all the hard work and digging through specific areas that you can specialize in. Wholesaling is not for investors who don't want the upfront work of building a network and understanding how real estate works. This is not a hobbyist kind of thing. It is a lot of work. Sometimes I would say almost as much, if not more work than traditional real estate. But if you are just simply looking to turn the profit because you have the network and you have the know-how, this may be a really good option for you. Also, while there is low financial barriers to get into this type of real estate investments are going to require some upfront cash or earnest money. Essentially, you're going to be making the offers on the property that you want to put under contract. And as everybody knows in the contract language, typically earnest money, down payment, good faith funds, and proof of capability of purchasing is going to be a requirement for you to successfully navigate into a contract to wholesale against. So that's where the upfront cash would be needed. Office expenses, supplies, monies that you may have to pay to a lawyer or a real estate agent, those kind of things to do that move. You need to be smart enough to work those margins into your contract so you understand that the negotiated price for the property plus what you need to make plus what you need to pay out needs to go on to the next selling contract. Obviously, there are some legal considerations that you need to be aware of in wholesaling. And the Florida market, if I have to centralize it, Florida market is a great market to be able to do in this. We have a very low inventory throughout the state of Florida. Although you see a lot of, and when I say that, although you see a lot of houses that are for sale in the state, you see a lot of houses that are available in Tampa, the areas inside of Tampa, the areas inside of the South Shore, the areas near Sarasota do not have very many houses to choose from, and specifically don't have a lot of townhouses, don't have a lot of condos, don't have a lot of single family homes that people are looking for. So that's what we mean when we say we don't have a lot of inventory to choose from. We don't have a marketplace full of excess amounts of inventory. If you are engaging in wholesaling without understanding and adhering to legal requirements, it will lead to legal issues. You can bet on it. Financial losses and potential penalties will far outweigh this type of strategy. So it's advisable to make sure that you've got good legal counsel on your side. Consult with local real estate authorities beforehand and make sure that you're ensuring in a full compliancy in whatever state you're operating from. Pro tip: before you start wholesaling real estate, meet with an experienced real estate attorney. Make sure that you're able to understand how to create and review the contracts correctly, putting protective language in there with their assistance. Also, establishing a relationship with a good real estate accountant or a CPA so that you can ensure this little venture is going to be profitable, so that you don't avoid overpaying taxes on how you're moving these properties to. These meetings are going to help you from making costly mistakes and potential litigation. So please follow through with those conversations. So how does wholesaling real estate actually work? Again, you need a solid network. You must have strong negotiation skills, and you must have the time to keep things moving quickly. Speed is a critical component of this being successful. Wholesaler needs to have time to assign a contract to a new owner. Sellers don't want their property tied up indefinitely, so wholesalers typically want to resell the contract within 30 days. It's ideal for owners of distressed properties because they can sometimes get their homes under contract with a qualified buyer faster than listing it with a realtor by doing that way. However, this may not get them the total market value. This is about you need to bring it in at a lower cost so that you can add your expenses and your potential money making on top of that before you pass it forward. So here's how it typically works. Property identification. You as the wholesaler are going to identify wholesale homes that are potential deals, often distressed or in need of repair, or people that have had a problem keeping a tenant. That's going to allow investors to purchase below market value. If the properties that you're going after are already on the market, or if they are requiring you to pay market value for it, this is not a wholesale property. You might as well just play the normal real estate game if you're going to do that. Contract negotiations. Wholesaler negotiates a purchase contract with the property owner, usually with very favorable terms for them, such as low purchase price, flexible closing timelines, and then checking the box that says assignment. So instead of closing on the property, the wholesaler is going to actually assign the contract who will be ultimately the end buyer, making the wholesaler pass through, a middleman, if you will, in business terms. The assignment is traditionally for a fee, and that's where the wholesaler makes their money. And then you've got the end buyer purchase, right? The end buyer completes the property purchase according to the contract terms, but negotiates everything through the wholesaler and not through the property owner. Another way real estate wholesalers invest is by purchasing the property themselves. Instead of assigning the contract to the buyer, wholesaler will buy and sell the property with back-to-back closing, also known as a double closing or simultaneous closing, depending on the state that you're operating in. A double closing can yield you a greater profit because the wholesaler purchase is well below market value and will sell for a considerable profit on the market side. So wholesaler keeps all of the net proceeds when they do it that way, instead of just collecting a fee to facilitate the transaction. This type of transaction is going to require quite a bit of capital, however, and it's going to need the down payment, the closing costs, etc., but also excellent credit, and it's best for investors with experience that aren't afraid to take a little bit of risk. Let's talk about the pros and the cons. There are some excellent benefits to wholesaling real estate. I want to include the low financial barrier to entry again, not having to actually own anything, not having to manage it, maintain it, renovate it, dealing with like you would on a typical investment property. However, there are also negatives like finding the properties, qualifying buyers. Let me give you some of the top fives of both so that you understand what you're getting into. So on the pro side, low upfront capital. I keep stating this. A real estate wholesaler will typically require a minimum upfront capital because you're not purchasing it, you're not renovating it. You're only supplying the down payment hold, and that money typically sits with a title company that you work very often with, so that it's a lot easier for you to stay within the compliances of contract and not have to consistently send money back and forth at a bank. You will leave that money with the title company, and they will earmark it based on the properties that you're wholesaling at that moment. Con would be the legal complexity of that. Wholesaling can involve quite a few legal challenges, including compliancy with local real estate laws and regulations. So if you're not a real estate agent, you need to make sure to probably work and get some advisory services from one, possibly bump them in on a commission. Real estate agents have access to local buyers that can, and potentially flippers and investors, that can help you build that network and help you build a more standard requirement for delivery of that. Pro, quick profit. Wholesaling leads to much faster profits than traditional real estate investment strategies. Typically, when you invest in a piece of real estate, you have to sit on it for a time period so that you're not eaten up by taxes by flipping it too quickly. You're following through with whatever the guidelines were for the loan that you had to acquire to be able to do the investment. It eliminates all of that. So the profit margin and the speed to that profit is much, much quicker. But on the con, you have limited control. Wholesalers don't have real control over the final property transaction because it depends totally on the buyer's decision. Another pro, no property ownership. Wholesalers do not deal with property management, repairs, long-term ownership responsibilities. They don't have to go in and get it up to a certain code before they have to deal with it. Conversely, they have very inconsistent income. The income in wholesale can be only based on deals that close. Almost even worse than real estate, deals aren't guaranteed, so they have to be vigilant about keeping things on track. If you do not have traditional organizational skills, this is definitely not a business that I think you should get into.